Okay, go ahead. Watch out! Everybody makes me feel with y'all to rock my stuff. Even who wish like a fast stuff or better than the other. I should compare, so you need to compare what is there with up here. When I am in here, under the atmosphere. When everybody makes me feel with y'all to rock my stuff. Even who wish like a fast stuff or better than the other. Let me forget what you eat, the bit I keep it, I see it, but even care, so my feelings for fun, you let me read it.
Hey, who did that song? Who did that hey? Who did that song? Who did that hey?
Welcome to Urban Revolution on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm your host, One Iam. And on my right hand is Miss Debbie.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Miss Debbie is here on my right hand as the co-host. This is listener-supported radio. You know that, Revolution Radio. Our listeners keep us on the air with donations. As a matter of fact, you can hit that donate button right now and you can sponsor this show, and make this your good deed for the day or for the month or whatever. You can hit that donate button, sponsor this show. You can sponsor any show on Revolution Radio that you like. You're given choices here at Revolution Radio. You don't have to sponsor somebody's show you don't like. But, I know most of the shows, everybody likes the shows and wants to keep them on the air. So by all means, hit that donate button, and I thank you. I appreciate it, and leave a message or something so I know that you donated. Amen. Also, if you want to be on the radio yourself, you can go to the Total Truth Radio, TotalTruthRadio.com, and look at us being a station owner yourself. Having your own station. And being able to broadcast 24/7, 365, straight blowing on up to that. You feel me? If that's what you want to do, you can do it for as little as $50 a month. Okay? So you could be a radio star for $50 a month with your own station. Go over to TotalTruthRadio.com. TotalTruthRadio.com and check that out. All right. What I want to talk about today, Black History Month just passed by, so I'm gonna get off of that. And I know everybody's like happy. Well, not everybody, but a few of my listeners are happy that I'm getting off of that. And we're gonna move on to I don't know if you could call this Black History or not. But we're going to talk about urban crime. You feel me? And what's going on in the cities and et cetera. As far as the crime situation goes, I'm here in Detroit, Michigan. And we've been having like a spike in crime, what they call a spike. Crime is normally high anyway. But for some reason, there's been like a violent spike lately in the Detroit area. And also in other places across the nation, there have been spikes in crime. I was looking at the Washington Times, March 1st, 2012. They got a story. It's called DC's Crime Solution, Be a Victim. That's what the crime solution is. Washington residents are up in arms, though not armed, with violent crime up 40% in the first 2 months of the year. It's up 40% in the first 2 months, including double the number of robberies at gunpoint. Okay? Residents are looking for ways to protect themselves. Elected officials and police have no solution. Take Benjamin Portman, who lives on Capitol Hill. He's part of the first district where violent crime has increased the most. A total of 110 incidents have been reported in 2012. Now, 2012 just flipped over here in January. And like these 110 incidents been reported. A 69% jump, according to statistics obtained by the Washington Times. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Portman's male roommate and his girlfriend were robbed by 3 armed men in ski masks as they walked home on a well-lit street. This is in Washington, D.C. Okay, Capitol Hill. That spurred Mr. Portman to attend a community meeting on the increased violence, which was held last week by a D.C. council member, One Iam on Ward 3 Democrat, this council member. Debbie, how you doing?
I'm trying to turn it down. I just logged in or something.
Right. Okay. Debbie's playing my voice back in my ears, and it's kind of throwing me off. So I had to look over at her and ask her how she's doing, and she's doing good. Like I was saying, this council member, Miriam Chain, Ward 3 Democrat, Mr. Portman asked officials why the city makes it so difficult for law-abiding citizens to register guns and refuses to allow them to carry weapons outside of the home. So in Washington, D.C., it's difficult to get a handgun. They make it difficult for you to register a handgun, to keep at your house. And then you can't get a weapons permit to carry a gun outside of the home, it seems like, in D.C. It's Capitol Hill. It's where all the congressmen and the senators and et cetera are. And, I guess for their own safety, they don't want people carrying guns in D.C. and et cetera, even law-abiding citizens. Even though when you pop some of their briefcases and et cetera, you may find handguns in the congressman's briefcase or on the congressman. But, no handguns carried and et cetera. But at the same time, I just read to you how the robbers do have handguns, and they're sticking them in people's faces and robbing them, taking their money and et cetera. And Paul Quander, he's the district's deputy mayor for public safety and justice. He responded that crime victims should give the criminals what they want. Okay? Mr. Portman protested, saying, but how do you know you're going to live and survive? You're completely at the mercy of the robbers, So you give them what they want, and they still might shoot you. So Mr. Quander thinks victimhood is preferable to self-defense. The problem is, if you are armed, it escalates the situation, Mr. Quander told residents. It is much better, in my opinion, to be scared, to be frightened, and even if you have to be injured, but to walk away and survive. You heal and you can replace whatever was taken away. And this is what the deputy mayors of justice and public safety is telling the people in Washington. Basically, don't worry about arming yourselves and et cetera. Whatever a robber wants, give it to him. And, he may kill you anyway. He may shoot you anyway or whatever, but you can make it. You may be injured. At least you didn't escalate the situation. He did. You feel me? Yeah. So you don't get the blame for escalating the situation. He does. Let me give you the call-in number. The call-in number here is 347-688-2902. 347-688-2902. And if you have some crime stories that you want to tell me, or some crime solutions, or if you're a criminal and you want to talk to me, about your line of work, then by all means call me and hit me up, at that number, 347-688-2902. And let's talk about what you do. Let's talk about why you do what you do, and et cetera. I may be able to understand, depending on what you say. I'm open to conversation from anybody. Debbie, you want to add anything before I move on?
Nah.
No?
Nah.
Okay. Well, Debbie had some problems herself a while back, with a carjacking and et cetera. I just mentioned that. And, are you interested in telling that story at all?
I'll tell it, yeah. I mean, it was, middle of the day.
It's the middle of the day, broad daylight.
Broad daylight, 2:30, on my way to work. Stopped at the gas station. As a normal habit, being a woman out by myself, I never actually ever pump gas close to the street. My rule of thumb is...
you don't go to the jack pump.
Right.
The jack pump is the pump closest to the street.
Right.
Okay, everybody knows that. You only use the jack pump in extreme emergencies, like I got to get some gas. The station is just super crowded, and I just gonna use the jack pump and take my chances.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So this particular day, I was running late for work. There were no other pumps. Everybody seemed to be taking slow. So I did go to the pump, and which was closest to the pump at the street, really. I went in, paid for my gas, came back out, and I stood there just pumping my gas. Two guys at the bus stop, just standing there looking like ordinary guys.
They looked like they were going to catch the bus, right?
Like they're standing on the bus stop, like they're going to catch the bus. And, I'm just sitting there and I just look at them the whole time I'm pumping because I'm filling my car up. Soon as I turn my back I finished pumping, I put the pump back, I walked back around to the driver's side, and as soon as I turned my back to them on the street, they ran up and put a gun right behind my ear temple.
Right behind your ear?
Right. And they kept saying, "Get in." And I'm like,
They were telling you to get in the car.
They were telling me to get in the car. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting in. And he was like, "Did you hear what I said? Get in." And I'm like, no, I'm not getting in. So while they kept telling me to get in, I kept thinking about how I was going to run because I know I wasn't going to get in that car with them.
Right.
So by that time, I kind of was inching my hand up, and I took my hand and I put my finger in the hole where the bullets come out.
You put your finger in the chamber, in the barrel.
Right.
Okay.
Then when I had my finger in there and I just took my other hand and I pushed his hand down and I pushed the door open and I started running.
And you started running.
Right.
And while you were running, what were you thinking?
Well, actually, I was thinking that they was going to shoot me in the back of my head or my back, but I didn't care because anywhere I go that day, if I had gotten in the car, I probably would have died anyway.
They probably would have raped you and done some stuff to you. And,
well, that story don't end there because they take my car.
Yeah.
And they take my money. They ride around eating Coney Islands and drinking a beer called something Bull.
Red?
No, it's not called Red Bull. It's something else called Bull.
That's what they were drinking. They were throwing cans in the back.
Like it was a real strong malt liquor that make you get drunk.
This is how stupid the criminals are in Detroit City and et cetera. I mean, they are totally empty. They're like Cro-Magnon cavemen in the head, as far as brains go. Okay? You will carjack somebody, right? And then they'll ride around in the same car that they carjacked from somebody all day long without even getting out of the car. Going over a friend's house, just joyriding the streets, drinking beers. They probably don't have licenses anyway. But this is what they do.
So they rode around and I guess they got drunk enough till they got stupid enough, and then they said, well, let's go get me a car for the second guy that was with them. See, the first guy was driving, so the second guy decided he wanted to be driving, and they would just have two cars, and they would just ride out, I guess, and chill out.
Yeah.
So they went down on Warren and I forgot whatever this other street is, but anyway, it was a guy sitting at a telephone, like, you know how they got the outdoor telephones. He was sitting there like he was using the outdoor payphone with his window down.
Yeah.
And when they came up on the side of him, they put a gun in the window. Well, Lord and behold, he was an undercover cop.
Okay.
Doing a drug surveillance at the moment.
Yeah.
And pretended like he was using the phone.
Yeah.
And they stuck the gun in the car. And when they stuck the gun in the car, he identified himself as an officer, and they started having a shootout.
Yeah.
The one guy got shot, like, in the shoulder, which caused him to drop his gun. And then the other guy kind of, I forgot where he got shot, but he got shot too. So they both got arrested.
Yeah.
When I had to go identify them, I had to go to the hospital to identify them. Now, they wouldn't let me really look at them.
Right.
And I really didn't want to see them, but the way I really identified them were by the pants that they had on and the shoes that they had on.
Really?
Because I stood there and I looked at them for so long. Because remember, you know, they say it only take you like under 1 minute to look at somebody. But I stood there the whole time. I filled up my car and looked at them because I'm leaning against the car, just looking at the bus stop.
You was looking at them. You know how deers and the antelope be looking at the lions and stuff in the jungle. Like, what is he gonna do? Is he gonna come this way? And they kind of look at him. They kind of mosey around until the lion make a move, and then they all start running in a stampede.
Right.
And that's pretty much what you was doing.
Yeah.
Looking at them on that bus stop.
Right. So it's funny because the officer said, before we even got to the room where they were at, I said, oh, those is the gym shoes that the first guy had on. He was sort of heavy set, da-da-da-da-da-da, and I described them. I said, and those is the pants and the shirt that the other guy had on, because I just stood there and looked at them for so long. So it's funny because I didn't even have to pick them out of a lineup. I just picked them out by the clothes that they were wearing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they end up getting like a lot of the time. I don't even know if they're out right now because I think for my case they got like 30 years, and then for trying to, you know.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what.
To a police officer, they got like 30 more years.
The thing is, they ran into another gun out there. You see what I'm saying? And that's what helps. With these crimes, like the D.C. deputy mayor might say, it's best for you not to have a gun. But he's thinking about a single incident, you know, where it's just you and this guy going up, and, you know, there's a possibility you could get killed by escalating the situation. But if these criminals and et cetera understand that the law-abiding citizens, the population is armed, then I think that would reduce the amount of crime that's taking place in the urban areas and et cetera, because you never know who, you know, you're robbing and who's carrying. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And you know, I think more people law-abiding citizens should go ahead and get gun permits and et cetera.
Well, you know, the thing that really bothered me the most, it wasn't even the most, well, it wasn't the fact that I was scared for a long time, that, you know, I always had panic attacks behind it. But the thing that bothered me the most was these guys were like 17 and 18.
Yeah.
You know, and you're asking when did it happen? It happened like 2001.
That happened in 2001. We had a person in the chat room asking how long ago did it happen, and she was saying it happened in 2001. Our mayor, Dave Bean, says our city is troubled, and basically he says let's stop the madness. Mayor Dave Bean called on Detroiters to take back the city as a wave of violence featuring youthful victims and perpetrators continued. Let's stop the madness. Let's get out here in the streets. Let's get at our homes. Let's let these young people know that we care about them. And at the same time, we are not going to allow them to create havoc on the citizens here in this city, being said as officials statewide struggle to explain and cope with the surge in gun violence. On the city's east side, police investigated the Monday morning shotgun slaying of Tamiko Robinson, 36. They arrested but had not yet to charge her 14-year-old son, with whom relatives said Robinson had feuded about sneaking out of the house to be with friends. Okay? She was the city's 50th homicide of 2012, and we only we're into the third month now. And the homicides are up almost 25% from 39 around the same time last year. And this kid, he's arguing with his mother and etc. He's 14. She doesn't want him hanging out with different people that she thinks is a bad influence on him and etc. And according to Tamiko Robinson's brother, LaShawn Roberts, 39, he said Monday that he had no doubt that his 14-year-old nephew was involved in her slaying. And she was shot 10 to 12 times with a 12-gauge shotgun, apparently while she slept on the sofa. So, I don't know where the young kid got a 12-gauge shotgun. But in order to be shot, 10 to 12 times, even a good shotgun, they usually hold like 8 rounds, one in the chamber and 7 in the magazine, in the slot, and in the pump action. But if it was a pump action, it might have been an auto, I don't know. But he unloaded on his mother with 10 to 12 shots from a 12-gauge shotgun. And let me tell you, it only takes one shot from a 12-gauge shotgun at 12 range, at close range, to do some serious damage. And a lot of people ain't going to make it through that, especially with buckshot and et cetera in the shotgun, and just the nasty wound that it makes. But that's what happened in that case. Where was I? That was the city's 50th homicide of 2012. A 6-year-old was critically wounded last Sunday by a gunman who opened fire on his mother's car in an attempted carjacking, police said. The unidentified boy was the third child in a month caught in a hail of indiscriminately fired bullets. And then they caught 2 15-year-olds and arrested them that were believed responsible for 3 carjackings in the area. They were kind of like out on what they call it, a crime spree. Just having fun, basically laughing, wilding, taking things from people and etc. And they're kids, kids with a gun, and without the proper training and etc. And not. Well, I guess they understand that they're hurting people, but at the same time, they're not fully aware of the repercussions and everything, and all of the consequences and everything to what they're doing, because they're still operating, with a child's mind. Even though they might be 15 years old, they haven't had much education, much training. Nobody has taken a whole lot of time with them. To see to it that they're educated about things, and they're lacking in money and different things like that, and they want stuff. So all they got is that rusty gun or whatever. Then they're gonna go out with that and have some fun. Okay, but at the same time, families have to protect themselves and et cetera, from this kind of wanton crime and everything that's going on in these urban areas. And although I'm reading this stuff and we're talking about, you know, the kids in the community doing their thing, you know, just wildly and stupidly, don't think that it will not affect people in the suburbs and the urban areas and et cetera. You know, people in the urban areas and the suburbs, they come into the city in order to get a little entertainment, to get a little action, you know, a little big city action. We got casinos here. There's Tiger Stadium, the Comerica Park and Ford Field where the Lions play, and the Red Wing Hockey is downtown, Joe Louis Arena, and et cetera. And, you know, people are coming in. There's a lot of clubs and stuff going, you know, nightclubs and restaurants and et cetera going on. People come in for that stuff. And all around that downtown area and, you know, kind of carousing through that downtown area is the kids that are doing this kind of a thing and older criminals as well. You know, they see you having fun, having a good time, this, that, and the other, and they're a little uptight about different things and not enjoying their lives, you know, because of, you know, the life that they built by not having an education and not being employed and et cetera. And, you know, the only thing they got really is that gun and a whole lot of anger. Okay. So, you could be a victim yourself, you know, just coming in and trying to get a little, entertainment and et cetera. So don't think it's just the, you know, urban area residents that, are catching all the flack. You know, I'm telling you, a lot of people, suburban people have come in, been robbed, had their cars broken into, all kinds of, criminal activity going on in the city of Detroit. And not only that, it spills over outside of the city as well into other areas, you know, metropolitan areas and et cetera. You know, you might be semi-safe, you know, if you stay in your house out on the farmland, you know. But when you come near the city, you're in as much danger as anybody that lives in the city. Real talk. You are listening to Urban Revolution on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I am One Iam, your host. This is listener-supported radio. You know, hit that donate button if you can, please, and give a couple of dollars. You can also sponsor this show. It don't cost a whole lot to sponsor a show. You know, hit the donate button, check it out and everything. You might want to sponsor me for 3 or 4 weeks, you know, so I can keep coming on and just giving it to you real about what's going on and what's happening. Okay. And like I said, you know, we got a spike in crime here in the city. And I think it's I think it's being driven by the economic conditions and et cetera being tight. And then on top of that, the social safety net that the governor and stuff and is supposed to have, they've been cutting back on that. You know, they've been cutting back on who can get bridge cards for food. They've been cutting people off of cash assistance, you know, families, mothers with children, and et cetera. And, you know, just basically leaving people hanging. I've seen people get out of prison and everything that are on 3 and 4 different types of psychotic medications, okay? And they need the meds and everything in order to stay balanced. And the government is like, we don't have anything to do with that. We let him out of jail. Yeah, we understand he needs all these drugs and this, that, and the other. and he's just out there on his own. You know, if he don't get the meds, that's on him. You know, that's the way they leaving them. The guys don't get the meds, and the next thing you know, they all keyed up again. You know, and they keyed up with nothing going for them. You know, but a rap sheet as long as your arm. Okay, and this is what's going on in the cities and etc. And you know, I'm gonna tell you about some of the solutions that they got going. In Detroit here, the police chief, he went to like virtual precincts, okay? Because, you know, the budgets are being cut as far as public safety goes and everything. The city is crying broke. As a matter of fact, we facing being taken over by an emergency manager, you know, because the city council and the mayor's office can't seem to get the budget straightened out. So the governor has already got a team here looking over the books, and he's going to decide whether or not he's going to take the city over completely, you know, because you know what I said like last week, the Negroes can't handle they managing themselves. Then we have to take this thing over and straighten it out, and that's what he's, you know, we got an emergency manager law, and that's what he's planning on doing. If he looks at those books and figures it out that the city council and the mayor can't do it, then he's going to come in with emergency powers and start doing his own thing. But anyway, you know, you can't expect the city to dump a whole lot of money, you know, into human services programs and et cetera. Not to mention that the state human services department came down here last week to the Detroit City Council meeting and told the city council that they wanted the whole Detroit Human Services budget, okay? They wanted the whole budget, and they were going to give it to a charity out in Wyandotte, Michigan, in order to give the poor people in Detroit what they needed and et cetera, because the state feels that Detroit is corrupt and that they're mismanaging the money and et cetera, and they have a hold on the Detroit Human Services budget, okay, and the weatherization program.
You know, it's all really a ploy, really, just to get their hands on the city of Detroit. You know, everybody ain't corrupt. You know what I'm saying? They just want to make it seem like everybody's corrupt. Yeah, we've had a lot of corruption, but we're no different than any other city out there in the USA. Every city got some corrupt politicians. It's just that right now, ours is being exposed, and they're not exposing all the other places. You understand what I'm saying? And they really just want to get their hands on control of Detroit, because Detroit has so much resource, valuable land, great property, wonderful homes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they want their hands on it. So any way and any means necessary to make Detroit look bad and put us down and da-da-da. I mean, come on. Your governor got some money that he owes to the city of Detroit. He won't even give it to you.
Yeah, they say the governor owes over $200 million to the city of Detroit. And, you know, he's not giving up that money, even though he supposedly found $1 billion in money in the budget, in, you know, to use for a rainy day. He's not giving up the $200 million that he supposedly owes to Detroit. So the Detroit City Council has been asking that the mayor and et cetera go ahead and sue the state of Michigan in order to try to get the money. But I was just mentioning how bad the budget is messed up and telling you that they're cutting back on services, and public safety is being cut back and et cetera as well. Detroit, the police officials, I got a story here from January the 4th where the police officials plan to close city precincts to the public at night in an effort to put more officers on the street, supposedly. Right? But anyway, the city's 8 precincts and districts will be closed to the public between 4 p.m. and 8 a.m. Civilian and police desk jobs will be eliminated, and officers will be redeployed to street patrols according to a teletype distributed throughout the department last week. Under the plan touted by officials as the creation of virtual precincts. This is what they call them. After 4 o'clock, they become virtual precincts. Several job assignments will be eliminated, including desk clerks, law enforcement information network. They call it LEAN, the Law Enforcement Information Network operators. They're going to be laid off. The timekeepers are gone. And the vehicle and building maintenance personnel. Nobody's going to be in cleaning the buildings or anything. Okay. In addition, all the detectives will be reassigned February the 6th to the Central District under the umbrella of criminal investigations. So they take all the detectives out of the precincts and everything and put them in one precinct, like Central Division. Okay. For budgetary reasons, the chief has to take proactive approach, said Commander Stephen Dalt, commanding officer of the Eastern District. Although precincts in Chicago and Cleveland are accessible to the public around the clock, Boston stations close at 4 p.m. on the weekends. Okay. In Lansing, the precincts close at 5 and the lobbies aren't staffed. Although during off-hour emergencies, citizens may pick up a phone outside the building and ask a patrol officer to come to the precinct building. So, and that's pretty much what we have here after 4 o'clock p.m. The police precincts are shut down, basically. There's nobody there, to talk to you. The doors are locked and everything. You can pick up a phone and talk to somebody at the precinct. They got a phone like you can pick up on the outside of the precinct there. You pick up the phone and talk to somebody. But they're going to tell you basically, you need to come back tomorrow morning when the precinct opens or whatever, this, that, and the other. Unless it's a super emergency, you may be able to talk an officer to come and to swinging by in his car. Swing by the precinct and see what's going on with me, man. I'm serious. Okay. This is what they're calling the virtual precinct. And Detroit resident Karen Campbell wasn't happy to hear that public access to precincts will be restricted. They keep cutting services, but the crime doesn't stop, said Campbell, 62. What else is there to cut? Now isn't the time to do this because it's getting crazy out here. Okay? But, the chief is saying he's cutting back all these inside officers and he's putting more officers on the street. Okay? Of course, we don't see those officers on the street or the increased services or anything. I don't know where he's putting them on the street at. But another officer, a 16-year veteran assigned to the city's Northwest District, said the virtual precinct effort has created an uproar among the officers. The officers don't like the virtual precinct idea. Everybody's mad, she says. The whole thing doesn't make sense. They're taking away the lean office operator and the clerks, but an officer is still going to do those jobs, even though the public isn't coming into the district. So basically, the jobs that they're eliminating as far as the paperwork and everything, they still have to be done. Somebody still got to take the calls and et cetera. Somebody still got to write up the incidents and the reports and et cetera. Those people are being eliminated, but it's going to be kicked over to an officer. So maybe that's why we don't see. Bless you. Maybe that's why we don't see, more officers on the street and et cetera. They do a lot of paperwork and et cetera.
Really? You
know what I'm saying? And why crime seems to be so heavy. The officer said those clerks that they're putting out of work, those clerks stay busy. And the police officers are going to end up doing all that work, she said. Last night I took 10 to 12 reports, plus the phone was ringing, and there were 2 report clerks, a desk clerk, and a lien officer on duty. I don't think department officials have thought this through at all. They're calling this virtual precincts. What do we have? Virtual crime? She's asking. And she also criticized the plan to move precinct detectives to a central location. She said these detectives work hand in hand with the officers in the precinct. They know the neighborhoods and the people in them. When they take the detectives downtown, they'll have to work on cases throughout the city. So we're going to lose their knowledge of the communities that they were in. You know, they probably were in the communities. They had their own little network of people that knew things, you know, and that they could find out stuff in the precinct that they worked in and everything, you know, and that would help solve crimes and et cetera. But now they're being kicked out of the precincts basically, and they're all taking them downtown, you know, to the central district somewhere, and they'll have to work all over the city. Some of them not in the same precincts and et cetera that they were assigned to in the first place. But, you know, they just continue to cut back on this and that. You know, the services are getting lesser and lesser. Also, they went to a virtual 911 system. This is the virtual. Everything is going virtual, you know, like everything except the blood coming out of your head when that criminal hits you in your head and takes your wallet. That'll be real, okay? It'll be real blood and a real knot on your head. But check this out. The precincts are going virtual, and the 911 calling system is going virtual. As part of a push to improve emergency service citywide, the Detroit Police Department is unveiling how residents' 911 calls will be prioritized with its new telephone crime reporting unit. The aim is to reduce the number of calls considered non-emergency, ones not requiring immediate service or an officer's presence, and redirect 40% of the calls for service to the unit. Okay? Like 40% of the calls, they're going to redirect them by, that you call 911. It's going to be redirected. They're going to prioritize your call. I don't think that's an emergency. Let's make that a 4. Okay? Or that's not serious enough. Let's make that a 5 and put it on the back burner. Okay? This is what they're going to do with your call to 911. And you may not see an officer at all for your 911 call. If you do see an officer, it may be an hour or 2 hours after you call him, depending upon the priority that they assign to your call. And I don't care, from what I can see, as far as the way they prioritize in these calls, you know, if it happened 15 minutes, if 15 minutes has passed from the time that you called, everything is being prioritized like down near 4 and 5. You know, not priority 1. Priority 1 is considered an emergency. Police are dispatched for situations including the perpetrator is still on the scene, the emergency medical service is needed or requested, and the preservation of evidence or the protection of the crime scene is urgent. So that's priority 1. You know, like, the guy is still on the scene. He's still sticking me with a knife. Can you come? Okay. Yeah, that's priority 1. They'll send somebody out. Okay. Priority 2, this is considered serious. Police are dispatched, but the situation is stabilized. The same criteria as priority 1, except the crime or incident is in progress or happened within 15 minutes, and the likelihood of apprehension is high or low. So basically, whatever priority 2 is, it just happened to you within the past 15 minutes. So they're going to priority 2 that, which means they'll come out if there's no priority 1 stuff going on. Okay? I'm talking about, this just happened to you in the last 15 minutes, whatever it is, a robbery, a shooting, whatever. Priority 2. The likelihood that you would catch a guy might be high if they comb the area that the crime happened in within 15 minutes or whatever of the crime. So then there's priority 3, which is not considered serious. The police dispatch because assistance is needed, but not urgently. Similar to priority 2, but the incident occurred less than 15 minutes earlier. These can include a break-in or a house stripping. Like, they busted in a house and they're stripping the radiators and the pipes and the plumbing and everything like this. Well, that's priority 3. It's not considered serious. No cop is really going to, hurry up to get out there to stop the guy from taking the radiators out of the house and et cetera. We get out there when we can. If you can, get his license plate number and et cetera, and get that to us when we do show up. Okay. Priority 4, not considered serious at all. Police dispatcher runs may be redirected to a unit only when the incident is not in progress. The perpetrator is not on the scene. It occurred more than 15 minutes earlier, or the likelihood of apprehension is low. When you get down to priority 4, I'm going to tell you, you ain't going to see a cop car. They're not coming. Okay? Priority 5, not serious at all. The unit handles that. It's similar to priority 4, but apprehension is unlikely and damage or loss is less than $10,000. So, priority 5, you got to wait till tomorrow and come down to the station and fill out an incident report because the station is closed after 4 o'clock p.m. It's virtual. And this virtual 911 system, they calling it virtual 911 because it's not really 911 anymore. 911 used to be the emergency number. When you call 911, you're supposed to get somebody, okay, on the scene, immediately. Emergency, 911, okay? You still dial 911, but now your calls are going to be prioritized by somebody who's going to try and figure out whether or not it's important enough to send the cop out, okay? You tell me what's going on, and let me figure out whether or not I'm going to send a cop out. Okay, you got hit in the head. Was it 20 minutes ago? Was it over 20 minutes ago? Yeah. I woke up. I guess I was out for 20 minutes. I'm bleeding all over the place. Well, the perp is gone. He's got your wallet and et cetera. It's been 20 minutes. What's that? You want to get out of 3, Daddy?
Probably so.
Priority 3. Okay. Sit there on the curb and an officer will be by as soon as we get done with the priority 2s and the priority 1s. All right. And that may be in the city of Detroit, a couple of hours maybe. You feel me? That's the way it's going down. Okay. The crime and et cetera in this, city and the spike in crime got so bad that the feds and the state decided to join Detroit in fighting crime. I got a picture of them standing right here, the feds and the state troopers and everything standing next to the police chief. Basically, the federal officer is standing at the podium and the police chief is on her right-hand side, and then the state trooper, he's on the left-hand side. So basically, she's moved him out of the way. Like, look, man, you freaking can't handle this. Crime is off the chain. Homicides are up. Robberies and stuff. We got break-ins over here in our neighborhood. What? We get a break-in like every 12 hours.
Nah. They don't really have we don't have a lot of they could break it. We just have a lot of people going into empty houses.
Well, I'm talking about the empty houses that these houses are boarded up. They are actually owned by other people or by the city, and these people are breaking into the houses. And I would say, how many do you think they do a day? I would say I looked at it. I'd say about every 12 hours somebody's going into one of these houses.
It's sporadic. And really, it was the same guys that was going into the houses, but they've been caught and they're in jail on 6 counts.
They're in jail on 6 counts of robbing houses.
Yeah.
Stripping houses.
Stripping houses, which carries a felony offense.
Well, we've had some carjackings over here. As a matter of fact, we just had a guy got shot around the corner. And he shot the robber as well because he was carrying. Okay? And then there's been other problems and et cetera around here. Let me tell you, what we're doing over here in our community also, and this is something you might want to consider, we hire our own private security. We have an alarm company, Duzen Security. And we hire our own private security guy to ride around the neighborhood in a marked car. He has a marked car, and he has a yellow beacon on the top of the car, that shines a light. And, he travels the neighborhood, up and down the blocks and et cetera, looking for criminals and et cetera, and trying to keep the neighborhood safe. He does a fine job, but it's a lot of territory to cover, blocks and blocks and blocks, that he has to cover. And, it's just one person at a time, okay, that's out there covering this in the cars. And he does a fine job of running off a lot of criminals and et cetera, and people that are doing things, knocking on doors, climbing. We've had people, one person was in her house on a telephone, and a guy walked in her kitchen and picked up her purse and walked out of the house. Okay? That was not too long ago, while she was sitting on a telephone. Okay? Ain't too much you can do with that, right? Except hang up with whoever you're talking to and try to dial 911, okay? And you better hope you get through within 15 minutes, or your call will be prioritized to 3 after 15 minutes. Nah, he left 15 minutes ago. We probably ain't going to be able to catch this guy at all. So hopefully he'll drop your driver's license in the mailbox. You feel me?
But I'm sure other states is having the same, issues.
Yeah, they're having the same problems and the same issues. Not only do we have dues and security over here, we also got another security company called Threat Management. They're not even a security company. They're like paramilitary. They're almost like mercenaries, And what do they charge, Debbie? Like $10 a month and $10 per call.
Right.
You give them $10 a month, and then anytime you need them, you call that number and they come out, and then you pay them another $10 per call or something like that. But they'll come out and manage your threat. Whatever your threat is, if you can get to the phone and call them, then they'll come out and handle your situation. Threat management. Okay? But like I was saying, then let me tell you also, we got, like I said, threat management is cruising the neighborhood. Dues and security is cruising the neighborhood. And we have to pay money for this now. And we're paying high taxes, in order to, for the police department and all this kind of other stuff that's running here in the city. High taxes, real high. Okay? On your property and everything. And, also, we got a CB patrol. You may have heard, Debbie She works the base station a lot when they have CB patrollers riding the neighborhood looking for criminals and etc.
Yeah, they're out right now.
They out right now.
7 to 9 on Tuesdays. We have select days that we have shifts on that. 7 to 9 on Tuesdays.
Hey, don't even tell when the shift is on. They out there right now. And we're not going to tell what days we out there and what days we not out there.
I don't know what all days they out. I just know 7 to 9 to Tuesdays is usually my day.
Okay.
They've changed. They changing it.
You know what? I think that's too much information right there.
Well, they change it every other week.
Yeah, I feel you.
To keep the criminals on their toes, and that's what you have to do when you have one.
Yeah.
You have to keep on going to a different time frame because you have to do the crime mapping.
You have to do the crime mapping?
Yeah. To see what days the crime actually,
Yeah.
spurt.
Well, let me tell you, like I said, we got our own CB patrol. We got threat management running around. We got dudes in security riding up and down the streets. And let me tell you, there's still a lot of crime. There's still a lot of break-ins. There's still a lot of things going on. This city is, it's tight, man. That's all I can say. It's tight. People was making desperation moves, and all kind of things are going on.
According to what the president said today, it ain't just tight here, it's tight all over. That's why he's making all these amendments today for people who have lost their houses to foreclosure and everything else, because he said it's tight. He said the gas is absolutely too high, and because the gas is high, that means the people's spending will be down. So it's just really kind of high all over.
Yeah, gas is going up near $4 a gallon and stuff like that, So, that's hurting a lot of people that's driving and got to go to work and different things like that. For sure, I'd like to see gas go back down.
Shoot, I'd like to see it go back to $0.25 a gallon.
I remember when it was 25 cents a gallon. I was a kid.
I was too.
It was 25 cents a gallon. I wasn't driving anything. My grandfather was driving. And he was stopped, at the gas station. And he wouldn't even get out of the car, okay? There was a gas station attendant that would come to the window and ask him what he wanted. Give me $5 on no lead, And it wasn't unleaded. It was gasoline at that time. It had lead in it and everything else probably. But they would fill up his car and give him back change from the $5. And while the car was filling, they would wash the windows on the car. With a squeegee and everything, front and back, wash his windows, and then he would pop the trunk, and they would check his oil on the car. Tell him where they would show him on the dipstick where it was and everything. Ask him if he wanted another quart or whatever, and or tell him he didn't need one. And he would leave, after that. But at every gas station, every station had service bays, with car lifts and everything on them, and mechanics in all the gas stations. You could actually, if you had a car problem or anything, a mechanic was on duty, to come right out, look at your car, look at your situation or whatever. You pull up into these gas stations today, there's no mechanics. It's unheard of. It's self-serve. On top of that, you got to pay first. Okay, you got to go in and pay first before you come out and pump your own gas. Nobody's going to wash your windows if you don't. And you're not getting your oil checked at all. Don't even break the hood unless you got your own rag and everything to check your own oil. And the gas, instead of it being 25 cents a gallon, it's $4 a gallon a day. Oh. Okay. What's going on? What's going on? That's all I'm asking. You feel me? But let me get back on this crime thing right quick. You are listening to Urban Revolution on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm One Iam, and the co-host is Miss Debbie. And, we're talking about urban crime, on listener-supported radio, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Hit that donate button and, donate. Sponsor this show. Keep me on the air, telling you what's going on and everything. Check this out. The feds and the state joined Detroit in fighting violence. Federal and state authorities stood with Detroit police on Wednesday to reassure the public that efforts are underway to stem violent crime. U.S. Attorney Barbara McQuaid called the recent shootings of at least 3 children in a spat of other violent crimes by youths within the past 30 days horrific. She stood with Detroit Police Chief Ralph Godbey and more than a dozen agents and officers from the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the Michigan State Police, the Michigan Department of Corrections, and the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. I mean, they got everybody on this. Let me read that again. We already got the Detroit Police right on the case, right? Now they're bringing in the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the Michigan State Police, the Michigan Department of Corrections, and the Wayne County Sheriff Department. They all getting in on the action, and they're gonna start corralling these Negroes and send them to prison for profit. Okay, this is a city of more than 700,000, and the people responsible are a very small percentage, victimizing the larger group, McQuaid said. My personal goal is to reduce homicide in the city of Detroit in 2012. She's already fighting an uphill battle. McQuaid called the 2011 body count of 344 intolerable high. Okay. But the murder rate is already 25% ahead of last year at this time. Last fall, federal officials announced stepped-up prosecutions of gun crimes as a part of a crackdown on violence across Detroit. Federal gun violations can carry much longer sentences than state charges, and federal drug investigations and crackdowns on ex-cons, probation, and parole violations also are now linked to the Violent Crimes Task Force targeted operations aimed at clearing criminals from neighborhoods. So you got all these agencies now that are working with the Detroit Police Department, supposedly. They're going after felons and everything, people with warrants and all kind of stuff. They tracking them down and running them into the prisons and the jails and et cetera, and, into the courts and et cetera. That's part of what's happening as far as crime fighting. But, let me tell you what else happened. There was a spat of shootings and everything, and a lot of kids got, we had 3 or 4 incidents where, children were caught in the crossfire, were shot and were killed. We had a 9-month-old baby, that was shot. A person got out of a car and shot up a house, a frame house, supposedly with an AK-47 rifle or something. Shot the house at least 30-something times. And I guess one of the bullets caught a 9-month-old baby. And fatally, killed the baby. So, we had this, we got a group here, a crime fighting group supposedly, in the neighborhoods called the Detroit 300, And after the baby got killed, they started doing a series of news reports on television and everything, saying that they've had enough, enough of the baby killing and everything, and it's time for all the men to just come together in the community and stand up and take responsibility for your neighborhoods and everything, and go after the criminals and everything. The Detroit 300. Okay. So I was listening to everything, and everything was sounding good. I've been waiting for, black men to really stand up. I've always wanted to stand up. I realize I can't do it by myself. You know what I'm saying? And actually get anything done. So, I was just wondering how much can these guys take before they finally do want to stand up and do something, in this community to save it and everything. So I was glad to hear that they were talking about standing up, but it's just the way they were talking about standing up that turned me off. The Detroit 300. I looked at their emblem, and you can go to, I'm going to tell you, you can go to www.thedetroit300.org, thedetroit300.org, and you can look at their website, the Detroit 300. They got videos on there and et cetera, and different things where they're describing what they're all about, the Detroit 300. And they're supposed to be like a crime fighting organization, something similar to what was that guy in New York that had the Angels? What was his name? Guardian Angels. I think that was the name of the group in the Guardian Angels in New York and et cetera. I don't know what happened to that guy in the Guardian Angels. Remember?
Yeah, I don't remember what his name was.
I don't remember his name. I do remember the group and everything, but this Detroit 300 is supposed to be that same type of a group. Okay? And, I went to the website and I looked at their website and, says welcome to the official website of the Detroit 300. Thank you for your time and attention in regards to this growing movement throughout the city of Detroit. And then, I looked at the Detroit 300 emblem, the emblem that they wear on their hats and on their shirts and everything. And basically, it's Detroit written in black, and then the word 300 is spelled out in blood splatter, in red blood splatter. Okay? And then it's all down on a white background. So that looked weird. I looked at black Detroit, 300 in blood splatter on a white background. So it looked kind of weird to me. Like, this don't seem like something that, that the average Negro who's sick of crime would put together, and would come up with this kind of a graphic art and et cetera that's going on with the blood splatter and the black Detroit on a white background and et cetera. And I went to the website, and basically, the group is they're doing patrols in hot spots in Detroit, hot areas where crime has happened and et cetera. Wherever a big crime has happened, like a baby got killed or there's been a big robbery or something, they go over to the area and they do street patrols, going door to door, knocking on doors and asking people, tell me what you saw and what's going on, what did you see, help us to find the killers and everything, or the robbers and this, that, and the other. If you don't want to talk to the police, talk to us. Okay? Of course, they work with the police, right? and they'll relay any message that you give them to the police. Only thing is, they may relay it to the police, in a different way than you said it. You know how it is when you're passing messages around and etc. So they may get something wrong and tell the police that you said it, and they come and get you for whatever it is you said. Okay, but anyway, it turns out that basically they just want to get out and get the neighbors and stuff to start snitching on other neighbors and other people in the community and etc. Like they say, anybody that's on the opposite side of the law, give us a message about them, and we'll take that message and handle that situation. Whether it be a drug guy, a drug dealer, or some guy with an abandoned vehicle in his backyard or something, or his own car that you're just sick of seeing his abandoned vehicle in the yard. I call them and swill on him, and they'll get it handled. You can make a noise complaint according to this is what's on the Detroit 300 website. You can report an open fire hydrant, report neighbor trouble. If you got trouble with your neighbor, rat him out. Okay? Rat him out, and something could be done to your neighbor about that. Report cable or utility theft. And all of this is supposed to be anonymous. You tell us, we'll tell the cops, and it's all anonymous. Okay? So basically, if a guy owes you $5 and he won't pay you the $5, then you go to the Detroit 300, right? And you tell the Detroit 300 that I think this guy has something to do with Joe Blow's murder, okay? And they'll relay that to the police anonymously, and then the police will come out and pick you up, the person that you reported. They'll come out and pick that person up that owes you $5.
That might not be right.
Yeah, they will. As a person of interest. They'll come out and pick you up as a person of interest, okay, and interrogate you and etc. And hopefully you won't say anything that would incriminate you during that interrogation. You may even be convicted of the crime. You wouldn't be the first one to be convicted of a crime that you didn't do. If you look at the Innocence Project, they're letting several men out of prison on DNA evidence for rapes and murders and everything that they did not commit after these men have spent decades in prison, okay, based on false testimony and snitching and etc. Okay, but anyway, this is what the Detroit 300 does. They take information and etc. and relay it to the police department. I don't know if they're going to relay it 100% right, like you said, if you give them a report, but they'll relay that information. I also looked at the Detroit 300 application on, if you want to be a member. They say you can join the Detroit 300 and be a member of their citizens group or whatever, or vigilante group or whatever they call themselves, the Detroit 300 membership application. On that application, they ask you, not only your name and your email and your home phone number and your cell number and your address on the application. They also ask you what your Facebook name is. Okay? What's your Facebook name as well? They also want to know what your Twitter name is. Since you're on the computer filling out an application. Obviously, you have a Facebook name and a Twitter name, I guess, and they want to know what that is as well. Okay, and I looked at the Detroit 300 to see, how are they financed? They got a website. They're doing different things. How's this group financed? I looked into the sponsors. They were sponsored by the city of Detroit, They're sponsored by the Detroit Police Department. They're sponsored by Chase Bank. Okay? They're sponsored by the Kresge Foundation, the Skillman Foundation, Community Legal Services, Matrix Human Services, Threat Management is sponsoring these guys, and et cetera. Okay? So I'm looking at, all these big government agencies and corporations and et cetera, and banks and et cetera, sponsoring these guys. It's obviously they're not going after government officials and banks and everything about the things that they're doing to people as far as cutting people off and the foreclosures and putting people out in the street and about not having jobs and et cetera. They're not addressing this kind of thing. They're strictly going after criminals that have messed up, young kids and et cetera, that have messed up after, they made a desperation move or whatever, out here, not being educated and et cetera, and not having any income and et cetera, and just being desperate and wanting something out of life and doing it the wrong way. You got these guys, out on the street picking people up and asking you to snitch them out and different things so we can run them into prison. Okay, and I'm not saying they don't deserve to go to prison, because a lot of the crimes they're doing and the shootings they're doing and this, that, and the other, yeah, they do deserve to go to prison for that incident. But we can stop the crime, okay, if we address other issues, like the joblessness, in the community, where parents and stuff don't have money, and et cetera. And in the education system being what it is, that needs to be addressed, where you have an emergency manager and everything take over your school district, and start chopping schools out of neighborhoods and different things. Okay? These things need to be addressed. If you want to reduce crime, you don't go at it from the back end, where you're just attacking criminals. You're going to be attacking criminals forever if you don't straighten out what's causing the problem, what's causing people to act the way they do and to do the things that they're doing. Okay, you got to address that. You got to address the bankers shaking everybody down for all the equity in their homes and putting people out in the street. You have to address the education system being shot the way it is, and different things like that. You have to address DTE, shutting off electricity and gas in the winter on people, and et cetera. These are the things that need to be addressed as well. Not just catching Negroes and putting them in prison, just working that back end. Because all that does is help prisons for profit and people who are investing in prisons and housing Negroes. And it don't do nothing to save our future in the urban areas. And it keeps us at each other's throats. Okay? So I'm not for just working the back end like the Detroit 300 is working. Okay? But anyway, I dug further into the Detroit 300. I find out that the Detroit 300 is actually a corporation. Okay? It's not just some community group of some guys that got sick of crime and everything and decided we're going to go outside and do something about it. We're going to take back our community. We're going to love our people. We're going to do that. No. It's deeper than that. The Detroit 300 is actually a corporation, and they have articles of incorporation right on the website. If you go up under look the About tab on the website and look up under the videos, you'll see the articles of incorporation. Pursuant to the provisions of Michigan Nonprofit Corporations Act, Public Acts of 1982, as amended, the corporation executes the following articles. Okay? The name of the corporation is the Detroit 300. Okay, now Article 2 tells you the purpose of the corporation. The purpose for which the corporation is organized is to lessen the burden on government police departments That's the first thing that they say, that the purpose of the Detroit 300 is to lessen the burden on government police agencies. This is what the Detroit 300 is all about. Number one, lessening the burden on government police agencies. So the government is able to cut back on public safety, okay? Get rid of investigative units and et cetera, and leave it up to a vigilante group running the streets at night asking people to snitch on whoever. You know, tell me what happened. Tell me who you saw. I'm going to take it to the police. Tell me. This is what our public safety has been reduced to. Okay? The investigative units are cut back. And in order to make savings, they put up this corporation to save government police departments money. And they're going to combat community deterioration by assisting communities and police forces in gathering credible information. They're about gathering credible information to resolve unsolved crimes and to assist communities in organizing crime-preventing activities. Okay? So basically, the whole corporation is a government shield. You know, it's a setup. And they make it a whole bunch of Negroes in the city think that men are standing up in order to come out and do something good in their communities, when really the whole operation is a cost-cutting venture for the public safety department, so that it won't cost them so much to provide public safety for the community. We already, like I told you, they already have cut back on police services. It's bare bones now. We got virtual precincts that close from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. We got calls that are not being answered. Your burglar alarm goes off, nobody's coming. They've already said that. We're not coming out on a burglar alarm going off. You know, we need more than that in order to come out and check a burglar alarm that's going off. Your call to 911 is going to be prioritized. You know, it depends on what you say, whether or not we coming out, and what priority we give your call based on what you say. It depends on that. And when it comes to investigative units and et cetera, they took all the investigative units out of the precincts. Okay? They're gone. They all went downtown to Central District. Okay? And what you have in the place of investigative units is this corporation that's been set up called the Detroit 300, where they're going to run in after a big crime and ask all the neighbors and everything, what did you see? Snitch to me, and I'll tell the chief what you said. Okay? And then they're going to act on what information the snitch gave them. You know, like I said, if a guy owes you $5 and he's not paying or whatever, name him. I think Joe Blow has something to do with the murder. I seen him over here the other day. This is anonymous now. I'm giving you his name. Okay? The police are going to act on that. They're going to pick Joe Blow up, and they're going to turn his life into a living hell, you know, in order to get information out of him about the crime and where he was at and this, that, and the other. He will be a person of interest. This is the way that works with the Detroit 300. You know, the name of the initial, the corporation is organized upon a directorship basis. The corporation possesses no assets. So it's a corporation with no assets. So, if they screw up out there in the streets and hurt somebody, or somebody gets killed or something by them, then you can sue the corporation, of course, right? But they don't have any assets. That's down here in the paperwork, the articles of incorporation. No assets, and etc. Also, in the bylaws, they got a board of directors and everything. The principal office of the corporation shall be at such place within the state of Michigan as the board of directors may determine from time to time. Okay? So this, the principal office can move around. You think it's down like downtown in the River Place office or something right now. Next month it may not be. They may move it around. It may be in Grand Rapids next month, depending on where the board of directors want to move it around. The board of directors may establish other offices in or outside the state of Michigan. So the Detroit 300 can also have offices in California or Texas, in other states, outside the state of Michigan as well. Now, also, this is the bylaws of the Detroit 300 that I'm reading. The bylaws of the corporation. They have directors, from 3 to 10 people, with 3 to 11 directors on the board. Okay? I look for the names of the directors of the corporation. You can't find the names of the directors. So there may be 3 directors, there may be up to 11 directors of this corporation. I don't know who they are. I can't find their names. I will continue to search them out and to find out who's running this corporation. The snitch corporation. Okay? Also, Article 2 in the bylaws of the Detroit 300, there shall be no members. That's what Article 2 says when it comes to members in the Detroit 300. Of course, they got a membership application on the website. But the bylaws say there should be no members of the corporation. I don't know what that means. If there's no members, but you have a membership application. Okay. And I believe there are paid members of the corporation, the officers and et cetera, which would be the treasurer, the director, or the president of the corporation or whatever. You got certain paid members, and then they're rallying up a whole bunch of men in the community, like just good guys coming out to help. That's basically, going to take snitch information and look for baby killers, right? They're not going to be paid. They're just doing a good deed, all the free work and the money and et cetera, that they would be paid is actually going to be going to help reduce the cost of the government agencies, the police departments and et cetera. Thank you for your help. You tell us what a robber is, and we'll go get him. This is what the government is saying. And thank you for saving us that money. And this is the Detroit 300 corporation. Okay? Corporation. So if I got any Detroit listeners and anything listening out here and et cetera, don't be fooled by thinking that this organization is just some guys that got together and had enough, and they're going to go out and do good in the community. Okay? This thing right here is sponsored and financed by government agencies and et cetera, banks, and they're looking to reduce the cost of public safety by having the citizens hit the streets and do the investigative work that the public safety department should be doing. Okay? And that's where it's going. You got to buy your own private security to patrol your neighborhood. You got to pay the monitoring service for your burglar alarms and everything. Even though your burglar alarm is being, you got monitors, so when it goes off, they call the police for you. But the police are not going to come out when your burglar alarm goes off. So the $30 a month that you're paying, you might as well keep it in your pocket. They're not coming out for the burglar alarm, unless they get some more information. Like, does somebody see somebody in your house? We'll move on that. But the other stuff, we just ain't coming out for that. And stuff like that. And I'm telling you, this is where public safety has gone. Okay? It's gone to you got to do it yourself. Even though you're not getting any of your tax money back, or anything like that. No, as a matter of fact, your taxes may go up, and et cetera, higher. You know, those costs and the money they still want, but your services, your public safety and everything is being reduced. And it's not just Detroit. You know, this is happening in all the big cities. Some cities have completely gotten rid of their police department, like it don't exist no more, and they called in the county to cover the township or whatever. You know, you got one guy riding around like Barney Fife and Andy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this is what it's down to. Let me give you the call-in number again. Call-in number 347-688-2902. 347-688-2902. And you can hit me up. Tell me what's going on with you. I did talk to a guy today that has his own firearm academy, and he does firearm training and everything. His name is Rick Ector. He's of Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit. He's an NRA instructor, and etc. And I talked to him. He said he would give me a few minutes of his time to talk about firearms training and getting law-abiding citizens getting a permit to carry firearms. Because basically you're going to have to protect yourself, you know. Let me see if I can get him on the line. I'm going to dial this number and see if I can get Rick Ector on the line to talk about, firearms. At the conference. See if he'll answer. Debbie, you want to add anything at this point?
Nah.
Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit.
Rick Ector.
Yes, it is.
This is One Iam, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
Hey, what's going on? I saw the unknown number, and I was like, okay. What weirdo is this calling me? How's it going?
It was me. Yeah, okay. It's going good. I just wanted to talk to you about your Firearm Academy of Detroit. You're on air right now.
Okay, well, great. Well, I thank you very much for giving me a call.
Yeah.
What specifically are we curious about sharing with the listeners?
Sharing that we were just talking about public safety and how it's being reduced and et cetera, because of budget constraints, and that people may need to handle their safety for themselves and et cetera. And that it might be.
There's been a lot of. What?
Yeah, it might be good for them to, if you're a law-abiding citizen and everything, to go out and get yourself licensed to carry.
Well, there's a lot of interesting things going on within the city of Detroit, particularly with respect to public safety. I mean, today, we got another, notification from the Detroit Police Department that now they're going to a virtual 911 system where, depending on what exactly has happened or is currently happening, whether they're going to put you in the queue for a police car to be dispatched to you, or whether you're just going to be sent to the non-priority list.
Yeah.
A lot of controversy with that, and this is still coming on the heels of the virtual police precincts where the police stations are no longer going to be open to the public after a set period of time. The time that I've heard was 4 o'clock, at least in the media and what has been put out there. But just talking with regular citizens, I find that some precincts are closing even earlier than 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
With crime being out of control, the homicide stats are really off the chain. And, just the last week or so, we've probably witnessed some of the most heinous crimes imaginable here in the city of Detroit. I mean, we got these two 15-year-olds who went on a carjacking spree.
Yeah.
Bodies turning up in houses. And it's
bodies burning bodies.
Bodies burning, bodies turning up in houses, women being snatched up. I mean, even just today, I'm looking at the news and I see where an ex-public safety officer on duty got convicted to 16 to 30 years for raping a woman he was supposed to help. I mean, man, where do we turn for relief? But here's the thing. If individuals are curious about exercising a more active role in their personal protection, one very great way of doing that is to get a concealed pistol license from the state of Michigan. First and foremost, it's probably the most active thing that you can do, especially when we keep in mind that the police are understaffed, undermanned, they can't be everywhere. If you call 911 and get through, depending on the circumstances, they might not even directly dispatch a police officer to you, which is what we're finding out today. So if you meet specific criteria, the state of Michigan must give you a license. It's not like the discretionary process that used to exist before, right around the pre-2000 era. Now, if you meet the requirements, these are state uniform requirements. If you meet those, as a matter of law, the state must give you this license, this concealed pistol license. Some people erroneously refer to it as a CCW, but basically what it does is allows you to carry a concealed pistol on or about your person, and that includes in a vehicle. So if you're driving for, stretches of time, whether doing your shopping or to and from work, anywhere in the Metro Detroit area, that's definitely something you want to have. It's a statewide license. It's good all over the state. And one of the things that a lot of people are surprised to find out is that we have what's known as reciprocity, which means that the state of Michigan concealed pistol license. So obviously it affords you protection when you're going on vacation. But in a nutshell, here are the requirements. You must be a United States resident or a United States citizen or a resident alien. You must be a state of Michigan resident for the preceding 6 months. You must be able to pass a criminal background check. And I know that scares some people, but the way I usually couch it, I usually explain it, is that it is not a popularity contest. It doesn't mean that you are perfect. It just means that you meet the requirements. Essentially, you must not have any felony convictions, must not have any active PPOs, or have any serious misdemeanors, You meet that criteria. You don't have any history of mental illness, that is where you were either involuntarily sent to a mental hospital, you are or have not ever been deemed to be a threat to yourself or some other person because of some mental defect, or, for example, you declared yourself not guilty of a serious crime because you were not guilty by reason of insanity or temporary insanity or something along those lines.
Right.
But if you meet those criteria and you take a qualified basic pistol safety training class, you then are now eligible to take the certificate that the instructor provides you, turn it in with a completed concealed pistol license application, pay the fee, it's fingerprinted, and your picture taken in the office. And depending on what county in which you reside, that will determine how long it's going to take for them to get it back to you. To be quite honest, of course, there's a lot of interest in Wayne County. Wayne County just happens to be the slowest of the counties that process those applications. But I will say that they've made great strides over the years to reduce their processing time. Yeah. Feedback I'm getting from applicants in recent history, going back at least for the last half year or so, they're telling me they're getting them in the ballpark of 40 to 45 calendar days, which is really great for Wayne County. There are some counties that I've heard students get them as early as a couple of weeks after submitting it. Of course, I can't guarantee your results, and your results may vary, but that in a nutshell is one way that I strongly advocate that citizens take on more responsibility for their safety. And I truly believe that the more we have citizens who are carrying firearms, whether they're carrying them concealed or carrying them openly, I believe that once bad guys start getting accosted or citizens start fighting back, and bad guys, whether they're rapists, carjackers, home invaders, or murderers, pedophiles, as soon as these individuals start realizing that citizens are arming themselves up to defend themselves, I believe we will then start to see a drop in crime.
I do also. You are a certified trainer, that's right?
That is correct. I'm credentialed through the National Rifle Association. I have quite a few credentials. My most highest credential is that I'm an appointed training counselor. That's someone who actually trains citizens to be firearms instructors through the National Rifle Association. Chief Range Safety Officer, Range Safety Officer, and a membership recruiter for the National Rifle Association, as well as a certified instructor for the following disciplines, whether it's home firearm safety, basic pistol, basic rifle, basic shotgun, personal protection, which is the CPL class, metallic cartridge, shotgun shell, reloading, and refuse to be evicted.
Okay.
I got a few certifications under my belt.
Amen. I heard that. You also do the classes, right? Where could people contact you if they wanted to take a class here in the Michigan area?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is probably through the website. My website is fairly detailed. It's got a lot of information on it. If you go to that website, click on the class schedule link, you'll see my full 2000 calendar online. If there's a date that makes sense schedule-wise for interested parties, they can click on that date, go through the registration completely online, and as soon as they finish the registration process, they'll receive a confirmation email and receipt in their email inbox instantaneously. The website is at DetroitCCW.com. It's all one word, DetroitCCW.com. I also have a blog, which I update fairly constantly, putting crime reports, crime prevention tips, concealed pistol license tips, personal protection, and crime prevention tips. It's a resource that I dedicate a lot of time to. If interested parties are interested, they can also check out LegallyArmedInDetroit.com. LegallyArmedInDetroit.com. And, of course, they can reach me by phone, and that phone number is 313-733-7404. Once again, it is 313-733-7404.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I'm sure some of my Detroit listeners are interested in arming themselves and taking care of their own public safety, their own personal safety, in the absence of, governmental public safety and all the cutbacks and everything.
Well, it's really, sad that through no fault of our own, whether the root cause of us not having enough money to properly staff law enforcement and even fire in our town is because the money's gone, whether it was through corruption, graft, mismanagement, incompetence. Bottom line, the city is running out of cash, and we are literally teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. They keep mentioning this emergency financial manager who's going to come in and probably cut thousands. I've heard count as high as like 1,300 more public employees. I've heard speculation that as high as an additional 500 police officers might be taken off the rolls and laid off.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure with things currently, before these upcoming layoffs that are coming down, currently, they're saying that it takes them 28 minutes to respond to a priority crime call, a call for assistance. 28 minutes. Just imagine how long 28 minutes is when someone's kicking in your door, or someone's trying to carjack you, or someone's following you, trying to run you off the road. You got to figure out a way to stay safe for 28 minutes, and that is a virtual lifetime. So,
Yeah.
you know, in that light, you know, I really believe that it's incumbent upon all citizens who care about protecting themselves and their family to look on taking a more active role. And I can't think of a better way to do that than to get a concealed pistol license.
Amen. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and telling my listeners that, and I will be keeping in contact with you.
Okay, well, great. You know what? Thank you very much for having me on. It's always a pleasure when I'm extended an opportunity to come on the various programs and to tell them about options in which they can stay safe in the region, in the town, in the county, what have you. If you need me, I'll be there, and it doesn't even have to be a virtual online thing. If you got something going on, you know, literally live bodies, feet on the ground, and you want someone to come out and talk to your group or your gathering, I am available, and I've done a lot of presentations for civic groups, neighborhood associations. So if there's anyone out there that has a group and would like for me to come out and do a presentation, I'd be more than happy to do that as well.
All right. And thank you so much for being on.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Take care.
Have a great night.
Yep. All right. That was Rick Ector of Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit. That phone number again is 311-733-7404 to call Rick and set up a class. You know, he'll take you through a class, and I guess he has a lawyer come in as well and talk to the class about the legalities of carrying concealed weapons and et cetera. You know, what you can and cannot do in certain situations, you know, so that you don't get into trouble by using the gun when you shouldn't. You know, you still have to be a responsible citizen, even when you're carrying a gun. You know, if somebody kicks you off with something they said, you can't shoot them. That kind of thing. I mean, you understand that, but you know, he has a lawyer come in. You know, he takes you to the range and et cetera. Make sure you're shooting properly and everything. You know how to load. You know, certified NRA instructor. And I would suggest that people around the country do the same. You know, if you have the availability to go ahead and get yourself a concealed carry license and et cetera in your state, do the same. They're cutting back on these public safety departments and et cetera. The budgets and everything are messed up. They're cutting back on the social safety programs. People are just being left out here. And, you know, they have to make a move. They have to make some kind of a move. And a lot of the moves they're making are bad. You know, I feel for the people that's making the bad moves. And at the same time, I realize that you got to protect yourself and everything, you know. And, you know, get a concealed weapons permit, you know. And a concealed weapons permit doesn't guarantee that you're not going to be harmed or that you're not going to be robbed and shot and et cetera. You know, if a guy's got the drone, you may even get robbed for your gun. You understand? For the gun that you're carrying. You see our troops are armed to the teeth and et cetera, going over to Afghanistan and Iraq and different places. And they're coming home in body bags and et cetera. And they have grenade launchers and machine guns and grenades and K-bar knives and everything else on them. That gun is just going to give you a chance, you know, a better chance than being unarmed. You know, you will be able to fight back, you know, in a situation. And like Rick said, and I also believe that if the criminals and et cetera know that the population is armed, that the law-abiding citizens are armed, then there'll be less crime. There'll be less robbery, and etc. If you go in to rob a store or a restaurant or something, and you know guns will be pulled out on you from 5 or 6 different directions. You're gonna think about that move before you make it. Debbie, anything you'd like to add at this time?
Just they talking about they don't even have the volume on their show.
Okay. You reading that chat room again? You are in love with that chat room, are you?
I'm not in love with the chat room. I'm just reading what they're saying. That the volume is turned off on your show.
Okay, somebody has that turned off. Is it?
It's in the main volume is turned off.
The main volume is turned off.
Like you're not being broadcast.
Well, I don't know. If they can't hear me, I'm still connected and etc. And I don't know. There may be a problem or something where they're not getting any sound. That would be up to the station owner to work on that. I just do my job here, which is to, you know, give you the 411 on what's happening, what's going down with this crime situation this week. But next week it'll be something else, and etc. And you're listening to Urban Revolution on Revolution Radio or freedomslips.com. Debbie is saying that I'm not being heard. Other people are saying, yeah, the sound is okay. You're live. We have a chat room here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You may be looking at the main page, but you can also hit the link for the chat room where you can come in on Flash or Java, depending on what you like, and get into the chat room and talk with some of the chatters in there, some of the regulars, and you know they're always looking for a new person in the chat room to come in and be a new family member, and etc. And sometimes we get into some some heavy conversations and etc. But it's all good. And the next show coming up is Prepper Solutions with Go Gadget and Deacon John. Prepper Solutions. I talked about getting the gun permit and everything. Yes, do that. Take care of your own safety and everything. But Prepper Solutions, you should listen to this show that's coming up next. They're going to tell you how to be ready for this economic collapse coming down. I'll see you next week. Prepper Solutions. Video.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.